welcome to Live the African Dream podcast. My name is Eunice Ajim and I'm your host. And today we have Yemi Olulana. Yemi Olulana, right?
You got it. You got it. You feel true.
Man, I am so excited to have Yemi on the podcast today. Yemi is the CEO and founder of Fliex Finance. Fliex is the number one spend management and corporate card platform for African businesses. They empower businesses to take control of their expenses via web, mobile, and corporate cards. They have helped thousands of businesses manage hundreds of millions of dollars in spending. Yemi, I am so excited to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for the podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So I saw on your LinkedIn profile that you like to read, play chess, and boxing in your spare time. Let's go ahead and start with that. I don't hear a lot of people play chess. I think that's like one of the games that I'm like, it's mind blowing. I don't think I've ever understood how it works. But yeah, I would love to just learn a little bit about your story and your journey leading to Fliex Finance.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks again, Eunice, for inviting me. I'm excited to be here. Huge fan of your work in this space. So kudos to you. Yeah, you definitely should take up chess. It's a really interesting game. I'm pretty sure you'll love it and get a grasp pretty quickly. So for me, my background is engineering. I've been a software engineer for the past decade, and I really love solving problems. I tend to gravitate to some of the hardest problems, and I think that's why I'm really excited about the African landscape because it presents a variety of problems, for me and a host of other capable people to administer our skill sets. And over the course of my career, I've either co-founded a startup or been like employee number one or two. Most notable of which is that I was a co-founder of Giddiphones, which was the largest classified marketplace for smartphones in West Africa. And that was during the smartphone and e-commerce boom. And it was a platform that was created to capitalize on that boom to offer West Africans a platform for them to exchange and their smartphones or sell them, etc. And after which, I got into the blockchain industry. I became a smart contract engineer. I was one of the first 100 smart contract developers in the world on Ethereum. And that was another exciting journey for me. I was intrigued at how we could use blockchain to solve problems in the continent of Africa. I had been on the short end of the stick of being disenfranchised from platforms like PayPal in terms of receiving payment. So when I saw the frontiers that technologies like Bitcoin and Ethereum were opening up to emerging markets, I really wanted to play a critical role to ensure that this could open us a new level of commerce for Africans. So I ended up building a lot of solutions there, helping both local and global companies explore blockchain technology. I pioneered the protocol on the Ethereum blockchain called the Proof of Use Protocol, which was pretty much used by a consortium of gem owners to, tokenize their gem on the blockchain. And I personally had for the past few years a big area dashes goal for myself. And in my lifetime, I want to create 50 million jobs in Africa. And I intend to do that by empowering 50,000 businesses to employ 1,000 people. So I knew that all my life's work would still evolve into me creating a solution to empower businesses in Africa. And, it reached a cycle where I was looking for the next challenge. And, I began to talk to businesses. I had like a Rolodex of 100 businesses out here that I would go on a daily basis, just interviewing them. That what problems are you facing? I would use the jobs to be done framework just to try and understand what they were trying to achieve, what were the roadblocks. And that's when we discovered this incessant problem, complaint about not being able to account for how money leaves these businesses. So we began to iterate and think of how do we solve this problem for businesses in Africa? Do we build another accounting software? Like, how do we actually solve this problem? And during that iteration was where we happened upon where we are today, and that's how we ended up launching the largest spend management solution on the continent of Africa.
Wow, what a journey. And I
Thank you.
recently saw on a LinkedIn post that you had like an annual, I don't know if it was a Christmas party or just, like an end of the year party with your employees. Was that the first one, or has that been something that you've been organizing since the launch of Flex?
So we are 3 years last year, which was like really good milestone for us because considering the mortality rate for startups, so we decided to we do that every year, just trying to celebrate our wins, reflect on places that we could learn from. So we gathered the Flex team members and our good customers that has been with us throughout the year. We just thought we could celebrate both our customers and our teammates and our partners that made the year really fruitful and much of it. So yeah, that was you should come for this year. So definitely extend you an invite if you're in town. So
Yes, yes. I would love to spend Christmas and New Year's Eve in Nigeria just because I've seen how fun it can be.
awesome. Yeah, it is very fun. You're missing out. You
I
know,
know.
look forward to it.
Yeah, but when I saw that, I was like, this is a good thing for any startup founder out there, right? To like learn from. I think we get so caught up on the working hard, the pushing through, making sure that we're growing our customers, we're fundraising, building product,
Yeah,
and all of the likes. But taking a time to celebrate the wins, to reflect, is always a good practice for any founder or just any organization out there. So yeah, I just thought I should definitely mention that. I know you spoke a little bit about your journey, just speaking with all of these different businesses, understanding their problems. But really, like, when was that aha moment of, you know what, Flex Finance is needed, and I am the one, right, that has to put it into this world and make it, a successful business, or potentially even like that next unicorn, right, on the African continent. Like, what was that aha moment? Like, hey, because one of the things that a lot of founders don't understand is when you decide to launch a company, yes, it comes with a lot of rewards, but it also comes with a lot of challenges. And you have to be able to think, I'm going to dedicate at least the next 5 to 10 years of my life, making sure that this business is successful. And it takes a lot of guts and a lot of energy to be able to pull that off.
yeah, Eunice, you're right 100%. I think one thing that is important to point out is that Flex has gone through different iterations. We wanted to be as lean as possible when we launched the first version. So the first
Mm-hmm.
version of Flex would be me literally and a couple of my co-founders who actually go to these businesses with a pen and paper to write down the expenses for them. That's how it was. We'd go there, what did you spend on? And we would go back, would go design, PowerPoint reports with different graphs showing them how they spent. That was literally what we did. We wanted to understand and see, would it be of value to these businesses? As an engineer, I resisted the urge to code anything. I didn't want to get into that rabbit hole of, oh, product first. I really wanted to solve a problem for these businesses. So we saw the value that that it had to these businesses, and we even got into a fight with one of the business owners saying that we were lying. They didn't spend this amount of money on repairs, and how come? And they're still a customer till date, to be honest. Then we went from then on. We would tell them to send it to us via WhatsApp, right? Then when we saw that, we wanted to see they could build the consistency to actually this information was valuable enough for them to actually keep sending us this information. So once we
Mm-hmm.
saw that, we built a chatbot. So at each point in time, we wanted to validate that this was a strong enough problem for the target market. So once we saw that, okay, this is a pressing problem for businesses in Africa, they really need this insight, they really need this level of control. Then we talking to this customer base, we decided what the first version of our product should look like. And that was how we built what we termed Internet Flex 1.0. That was the first version. We got lots of feedback from customers. And right when we launched Flex 1.0, that was immediately when COVID happened. So a lot of the high touch things that we used to do to understand the customer all had to be digital.
Yeah.
And we had to ensure that, we could maintain that level of understanding digitally. And it also worked in our favor because businesses could no longer do business as usual. They needed to adopt tools that would help them, operate in a digital manner, in a remote manner. So there was a lot of pull from the market for our solution. So we're able to ride that wave at that point. So from then on, we knew that we couldn't just copy paste the spend migrant model globally because
Mm-hmm.
only about 14% of business transactions are cards. Over 80% of transactions done by business are actually via bank transfer. So we knew we needed to be original about how the African version of a spend management solution would look like. And the only way we would get there was by listening to customers, seeing how they engage the product, seeing what they liked, seeing what they didn't like. And I would say it's been a bunch of different moments, not just one moment. They've been learning at different parts of the journey. And looking back, I'm extremely grateful about the approach we took and where we are as a business.
Wow, that's so beautifully put together. I'll just, kind of follow up on that conversation. You came up with a how to fail list in your company to help every department in Flex to be wary of the things that may derail you from achieving your goals as an organization. What was the inspiration behind this, and how has this kept you all focused on remaining innovative?
Yeah. So when I was doing my research on organizations that failed and why they failed, one of the things that I came across was that no business failed suddenly, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
it was always incremental. They were doing certain things that they were compromising certain standards. They kept ignoring certain best practices. As they say, the little foxes destroy the vine. So it's failure tends to be more incremental than one sudden event, except it's like a force majeure. Maybe someone is procrastinating here, someone isn't abiding to processes here. And all these things come together to just for that big day where everything falls apart. FTX case in point. FTX didn't just blow up on one particular day. There have been certain problems that went unaddressed for a really long time that actually erupted into what we saw as the catastrophe we actually saw. So, that made me thinking like, okay, you can actually be doing the things that make you successful and implicitly also doing things that would cause you to fail at the same time. And no matter how much effort you put into doing good, if you keep slotting different bad habits, along the way, you tend to begin to coast. So we wanted to shine a spotlight on the things that cause people to fail in our organization, right? Like, so we would just say, look, if we wanted 2023 to be a catastrophic failure, award-winning failure, what were the things we would need to do? We would need to procrastinate. We would need to not abide by processes. We would need to, document poorly. We would need to have horrible customer service. So every department has that, and they can periodically reflect and say, okay, these are the things that we would need to do to fail. And we're not trying to fail in 2023. We want to, outperform our previous year. So which of these things, am I doing? And how do I put a stop to them? Because you can predict future outcome by the current activities you are engaging in. So we wanted to pretty much shine a spotlight on all those activities that cause people to fail that are being swept under the rug. So that was the general idea, and it's really helped our organization, achieve what we've achieved so far and helped us grow.
That is such a beautiful, I don't think I've ever heard that. So that is a great way to implement, just, it's not like, okay, like here are the goals. Like a lot of organizations are
Yeah,
like, here's what we are trying to accomplish this year versus here's how not to fail. Or like, here's,
yeah,
or
exactly,
if we were to fail, this is what it would look like. So let's try
exactly.
not to do that and focus on what we think will be helpful.
Yeah.
That is a great idea and a good thing for anybody listening, right? Maybe try it out in your organization and see if that
Please,
works for
you're
you.
welcome to try and give me feedback. I really love it.
Yes, and contact Yemi and, and ask how it's working out for him. So Yemi, what has been some of the biggest successes you have seen since you've launched Flex Finance? Brag a little
So
bit about yourself.
well, yeah, I think looking back on 2022, despite the headwinds, it was an amazing year for us. We had an over 1,000% year-on-year growth on all points in terms of revenue, in terms of customers onboarded, revenue, transaction volume processed. And, 2022, despite the global economic headwinds that came, we're able to ride it because, for a product like ours, businesses are tightening their belts. They're being more conscious of how money leaves the organization. And a lot of these businesses are turning to Flex. So Flex has, gone from maybe being, oh, this is great, we really need to solve this problem, to being an essential services for businesses that want to survive this period. So businesses are realizing it more, and we are happy to be in a position to support the fastest growing businesses in Africa and to ensure that they have total control of their spending. African businesses spend over $1.6 trillion every single year, and it's expected to rise to over $4 trillion in just 7 years. So the market is growing really, really rapidly. And in order for businesses in Africa to be globally competitive, they need world-class tools. They need tools that would help them compete with other firms, right? And we are here to provide businesses with those tools that would help them take control of their spending, because poor spending is pretty much the largest cause for business failure, which in turn leads to unemployment. Looking at how far the businesses that we serve have grown, they've expanded to new states and open new locations. There's a business that currently uses us and is so dear to my heart, and they literally had to shut down a branch of theirs before Flex, right? Because of they couldn't control spending, graft was going on. It was a terrible process, right? But since we've onboarded them on Flex, like the business owner has total control on company spend, can have pure visibility, and he's been able to open up 4 more branches across Nigeria, employ more people, pay more taxes. So it's really important for businesses in Africa to have this type of solution. I really believe this is what we need to unlock the next level of job creation and economic prosperity on the continent.
Wow, wow, wow. So beautifully put together. I mean, I think as I think of Flex Finance and I hate to get this wrong, but I always like to look at some of, because again, I think that, again, like a lot of these African businesses are now becoming digitized, right? They're going away from pen and papers, and now they want to manage their expenditure on, like on the internet, have a good overview of what their company looks like, what is income, expenses, and really understand how to manage them, even when they're scaling and when they're growing. This is a tricky question, but also like the one that I think is I like to better understand. If you were to look at US or China or Latam and think of like a good comparables of what Flex Finance would be for the African continent, like what company would you say is probably a good reflection of what you guys are building in Africa?
Yeah, great question, Ernest. And to be honest, I think I could give you like a dozen, and I'll tell you why. Because yeah, I like that. Like I study the space globally, and I like to just get into it. And the reason there are like so many flex-like solutions across the globe is that B2B problems tend to be far more homogeneous than B2C. That is why you see accounting software having success in Europe and America, and also being applicable here with ERP and etc. And in the US, for example, we have players like Ramp or Divi. Brex also falls into the space. In Europe, we have Spendesk or Pleo or Penta. Then in Southeast Asia, we have Volopay. And in South America, we have Clara. So you see, every region has their spend management champion. It's a problem that needs to be solved. It's a problem that must be solved to unlock new levels of prosperity for the African continent. And Flex Finance is well positioned to solve this problem. We have gone far in the journey. We've spent the past over 3 years solving this problem. We understand the pain points. We understand the African persona. We understand what business owners and what finance leads and what operations leads wants to see. So across every geography, there's Alan in in the Middle East. There's some in Dubai. So every region of the world has their spend management champion, and and Flex is uniquely positioned to solve this problem for the African continent. And we're excited to see this development across the world. And it's more, motivation to do what we do for Africa and on board as many businesses as we can onto our solution.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, well, let's go a little bit to you on the personal level. I think on the personal level, I think, with running a startup, there's always a first time, right? You get your first 1,000 transaction, you get your first 1 million transaction volume, and then we can even say that you get your first, or you cross your first, 1 billion naira transaction volume.
Yeah.
How have these experiences shaped your journey as a startup founder?
Yeah, those are the points where the team feels like we're doing something right. It's been phenomenal. I remember that was in 2021. We wanted to get our first 100 businesses, and everybody was selling. our CTO was selling our software engineers, I was selling our growth. We're all there trying to onboard businesses in our network. And like once we hit that mark, there was this kind of relief that, oh my God, we did it. Businesses love this. And we saw the retention. The retention was off the roof, way higher than the average. So that was a really pivotal moment for us because it was really important for us to see that businesses liked and loved what we did. And the next point would be like, I think that would be our first billion. That was like in 2021, thereabout. And we're trying to like onboard businesses and like we're saying, okay, we need to hit a billion. And we had like a vision board everywhere. It was all over the office. It was all over my house. It was
Yeah.
every single place I could see like, okay. And, and there's a saying that it's easier to grow a business from $10 million to $20 million than from 0 to $10 million. So like once we hit the billion, like it took us like less than, let's say, 2 weeks to hit the second billion. It was so crazy. It was actually so crazy, the growth rate after that point. So we just know that once we're able to cross that certain inertia, there's a certain effect that kick in and everything just begins to align. So that's why the team, we really take this goal seriously. We have the goals for the year that we really want to hit. I'm not going to disclose that here. But I expect that novel feeling of achievement to still be there at every single point. I'm really grateful for my team, our customers, and all the progress that we've made, and even our investors for backing us. And it's really awesome to have the privilege to solve this problem for the African continent. So yeah, I look forward to more of such milestones.
Yes, I mean there's just a certain I was like adrenaline. Oh my God, I can't
Yeah.
pronounce, but it's just there's a certain thing about getting that first check, right?
Yeah.
Like, closing that first customers and I think like those are some of the little wins and the baby steps that
Yeah.
keeps us
Yeah.
motivated day by day. You mentioned investors, so I wanted to go a little bit on that side. I think, we constantly hear about the challenges of fundraising as African entrepreneurs and African founders. I know you've raised at least an angel and a pre-seed round. And I want to, in your perspective, what was the fundraising journey like? Like, if there are any practical advice, right, you can give to any founder out there that is looking to raise a round and maybe struggling to find those investors, like what would you recommend, or like what was your journey like that you think might be helpful for anybody listening?
Yeah. Thanks, Eunice. I would say, in terms of fundraising, I know there are like tons of advices out there in terms of how to approach it, what to do, approach investors. So I would just try and give things from my perspective, right? I would say expect it to be an educative journey. Like you're going to learn a lot. Don't go into meetings or meeting people, really hard nosed and being unwielding, right? Just you have to be willing to take things in, all sorts of feedback, positive feedback, negative feedback, and accept that it's hard, first of all. Like this process is going to be hard, right? And take every yes or a no as a win. Even if you get a no, just try and get as a quantitative feedback as you can. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was just saying, like,
Okay.
try to get like, even if you get no's, like,
Yeah, yeah, just get good feedback. Just pick the wins from every single thing, right? And also be realistic. One of the key things that helped me was, as a founder, you need to be optimistic. It's important to be optimistic as a founder. If not, you're not going to start. You're not going to keep you going. But optimism tends to not work so well while you're fundraising. That aspect, and I'll tell you why. Because you tend to pick every single cue as, oh, I think they really want to write it. You could probably pick they responded to my email or they asked me this question. Like nothing is certain till the guy decides to actually wire that money and the money is in your account, right? So just approach it from a realistic perspective. Like you need to shoulder your optimism a bit and just be very realistic, right? Investors could do due diligence, they could do every single thing and still decide for whatever reason that, hey, I'm not going to go ahead with this deal. So if you are realistic with the outcome and statistically you look at it that, hey, Pareto's principle, right? Like 80% of the capital is going to come from less than 20% of the people I talk to. You're not going to close every single investor that you actually speak to. So if you have that realistic mindset, it will really help you. I think the hardest part for founders is the rejection part, right? That's the hardest part. So if you just anticipate it a bit more and don't get your hopes up too early, I think you'll be fine. So don't get your hopes up too early until they've wired. take it as an educative journey. You're going to learn a lot. Investors are going to ask you questions you really didn't even think about, and it's probably going to prepare you for the next investor they're going to talk to. And so once you take those data in and you process it, and it helps you improve your deck, helps you improve your pitch, help you improve your value offering, right? And once you do that, I think invariably, and you keep meeting with different investors, you might need to talk with lots of investors, depending on the round and how you want to shape it. And I think talk to other founders too. I think founders are pretty much a really good resource in terms of preparing your mind. Just hear their story. How did you fundraise? Who did you talk to? How long did it take? I think you get a more realistic experience from that point. But it's not easy. Yeah, asking someone to give you money and trust you that they are going to build $1 billion company. And the investors listen to thousands of pitches every single day. Sometimes I empathize with you guys. Well done, Eunice. And you have to decide who's the winner. Who's the winner? Like, so you just have to know that, hey, like it's a marathon, not a sprint. And then if what you're building is truly good, and you're going to win inevitably. So that's my feedback. I hope that helps someone.
Yeah, definitely. I really love when you mention that speak to other founders. I think that is one that a lot of other founders out there take leniently. I mean, I get a lot of introductions from my current portfolio companies. I've invested in a few companies that were recommended for my current founders. So and it's also like a good way to filter out investors, right? Like
Yeah.
if a founder has had a bad experience and I'm like, nah, that person is not writing checks, don't speak to them. It's a good way to also like filter out, the good and the bad, and making sure that, you're not wasting too much of your time speaking to the wrong investors. All right. Well, Yemi, this has been an amazing podcast. And I always
Thank you.
love to end with, again, the whole purpose of this podcast is all about living our African dream. And you've mentioned so many times how you're inspired by just the level of successes that you want to see across the African continent, how many jobs you want to create, how many businesses you want to impact. But if you were to sum up in a few sentences, right, what is your version of the African dream?
I think my version of the African dream is one where, Africa is no longer seen as the donor continent where um, we are production driven and value driven, where the best of us can, call Africa home, and we have the enabling environment to produce. It doesn't seem like our environment in a way is warring against us. My version of the African dream is where the ease of doing business is amazing, where there's infrastructure to build, where people can live up to their full potential on the continent across a variety of skill sets. It could be entrepreneurship, it could be engineering, it could be creative industry, it could be the arts. So just having that Rolodex of opportunities for people to prosper and to succeed on the African continent. That's where that's how I see the African prosperity evolving over the next 2 decades.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well,
Amen.
Yemi, it
Amen.
was such a pleasure having you on the podcast today. Again,
Thank you,
this was
Ernest.
Live
Thank you
the
for having
African
me.
Dream podcast. Yes, definitely. With Yemi Olulana. Yes, I think I said it right.
Yes, you did. You got it. You got it. You got it.
I think the double L's is like tripping with my head right now.
don't, don't worry. You get the hang of it.
Awesome.
Don't worry.
Awesome, awesome. Well, you can find Flex Finance. I think it's flexfinance.ai.
Correct. Correct. Yes.
Awesome. And you can find Yemi on all social media platforms, specifically on LinkedIn and on
Yes.
Twitter. If you have any questions regarding potentially using Flex Finance for your spending management, you know where to find them. And if you just need advice as a founder or potentially an investor, I believe Flex Finance is going to go very far.
Thank you, Ernest.
Yemi, it was such a pleasure having you today.
Thank you, Ernest. Appreciate your time.
Amen. Okay. And I hope everybody is having an amazing day. And until next time, I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Ernest. Bye. Bye, everyone.